Another game and another multi-goal deficit. The Stars almost erased, but this time they just come up short to the Canadiens by a final score of 4-3. Let's talk about this one next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer, 105 Through the Fan, and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Oh my goodness, what an effort from the Dallas Stars to cut the lead to 1, but just could not get one more past Sam Montembeault, who was really spectacular for the Canadiens in net, and they just fall short. 2-6 on 5 goals with under 5 minutes to go in the game, and they had 2 minutes with a chance to tie it, and they just could not find the equalizer. So frustrating. And once again, another multi-goal deficit in the third period. And it was just a bit too much this time for the Dallas Stars. Let's go ahead and really dive into this one because there was a lot of positives in the contest as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. So let's start from the beginning, shall we? Because I was talking about breaking up the Dadonov, Benn, and Johnston line, and right on cue, they score 11 seconds in. What a goal from Jamie Benn, and great work from that trio. I thought they played their best game in really about a month. Benn was very noticeable. He made a lot of great plays, and this contest kind of lended to his style of play. It was heavy on the outer edges of the rink. I mean, so many board battles. Montreal, I thought, was phenomenal at winning battles and getting to the net. And they got rewarded a few times for it. They were just really strong in their stick checking. And they made it really hard on Dallas, even though I thought Dallas was clearly the better team. They opened up a 1-goal lead. It was quickly erased as Montreal popped in a couple. And once again, we get into one of these games where it moves along and you're like, the Stars are the better team, clearly, and they're not playing with a lead right now. And it's very infuriating because they didn't have a terrible start. I thought Wedgwood had a more pedestrian game on the night. There was a few he should have stopped. The one that went through his 5-hole and the Evans goal is a save that he's been making lately, like the save the Stars need in order to stay in the hockey game. And he just didn't get those last night, which was unfortunate. And the Stars still had a chance to come back because they get those 2 6-on-5 goals and they're humming. Really unfortunate penalty from Joe Pavelski after they just killed off a 4-minute double minor from Jamie Benn. And that just kind of felt like the game because you blow a fourth of your period having to kill in the third when Dallas was really rolling. They'd obviously be getting been getting really good chances. Pavelski was robbed 3 or 4 times on the night. The Duchesne line had a ton of looks. I thought the top line continues to build off each game. And you just had to kill off too many penalties. And unfortunately, Montreal gets that 4th goal, and that ends up being the deciding factor. And what an effort. I mean, from the Stars to even make it a game, but it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth because you should have had 2 points, and it looks like Colorado may end up winning. Winnipeg does win. So we'll see as the scores roll in, but now Dallas may be back first place by a couple of points against a team you really would have liked to beat on home ice. You won 6 straight, and you just can't play from behind. You can't do it. And Montreal's young, of course, and they tried to give it up, but they got enough, and you gave yourself way too big of a hill to climb last night. 3 6-on-5 goals is a very tough ask. And boy, it was fun and entertaining to watch, but very hard. I think if it's a 2-goal deficit, the Stars have a chance. At no point in the third period did I think the Stars were going to be out of it. until the fourth goal. And even then, they were still in it. You can't continue to be behind by 1 to 2 goals, and they just cannot score that goal on the power play. That's something that's been a real struggle recently. They got a couple of goals here in the past 2, but they can't score the big one, the one you need. When you're up 2-1, you need to put away a team. They can't get that one. When they were down 2-1 and they had their only opportunity of the night, they can't cash in. Montreal gets the next one moments later, and it blows. It takes the wind out of your sails. It really does. And what can I say? They continue to play from behind. They've won 13 games from behind this season, tied for the most in the NHL. It's not a way to live. It's not a way to live. And it will come back to bite you, especially against teams you should be beating. And I'll preface it with, too, that Montreal played phenomenal. Their guys had some great nights. Suzuki was great. He ended up grading out the best player in the game. Slafkovsky had a night. He picked up an assist. Caufield scored. Every big name that they needed to have a good night, they had one. I thought Montreal played really, really good, especially in front of their own net, too. They blocked so many shots. I mean, nobody could get a shot through from the point on Dallas, especially Miro was hitting shin pads, Harley a few times. Montreal ended up with 25 blocked shots, which especially rang true late when they had all that 6-on-5 time. Finally, the Stars were able to create some chaos. They need to look to shoot a bit more and stop looking for the tip. I know it's a very highly successful play for them, but late in the game, they started creating chaos, just shooting the pill and getting Montembeault scrambling a bit. And that created some great looks, and they capitalized a couple times. Wyatt Johnston on the follow-up, big goal for him. Great to see. Gets the monkey off his back. He really needed it. A 2-point night for him. Marchment, I thought, played really, really well in the last 5 minutes of the game, kind of creating havoc. And he's great in those situations. He's so physical and just making things happen. He ends up with 2 points on the night. So he follows up his Hattie performance, picks up a couple of helpers. But I mean, the moral of the story is you can't give up these leads, especially to teams you would like to handle. And it felt like they were just going to run away with this one off the start. You get a goal 11 seconds in from your captain. They followed that up with a couple of good shifts, but Montreal continued to push, and they played a really good hockey game. Also, Montembeault was really, really special. His expected goals against in the game was 3.18. He made 8 high danger saves. He robbed a few Stars, and multiple of them, not just a few. I mean, many in the game, which was a big reason why Dallas lost as well. And they've run into some really hot goaltenders, Hofer in St. Louis. And Dallas is a high-scoring team, of course. They're averaging 3.6 per game. That's second in the National Hockey League. Offense hasn't been an issue. Their defense wasn't particularly terrible yesterday either. They did give up a couple of rushes, and they were a bit loose on their transition play off turnovers, but I thought both teams were. It was kind of chaotic, which I think lended better to Montreal. Just kind of a fly-by-your-seat kind of game. The Stars couldn't really get their hands around it to some degree, even though they played with the puck more. Their Corsi percentage at 5-on-5 was really good, especially in the second, 73% to 80% in the third period. They outchanced Montreal 30-12 at 5-on-5. Special teams just kind of ended up being the deciding factor. I mean, 43 scoring chances, 19 of them were high danger, and a lot of those were late with the mass scrambles in front, and they gave it an effort. It really felt like they were going to do it. The Stars just have some magic late. It seems they've had that clutch gene in the past few seasons, and they got one. I was like, okay, good for Wyatt. You know, they'll make it interesting. They get the other from Robertson, and it was like, okay, come on. Now, don't tease me here. Get the equalizer. And they almost had it. Marchment was right there, and he sent it wide, which I think everybody died a little bit when they watched that. But close but no cigar, right? That's kind of the headline here today to begin today's podcast. And you can't continue to put yourselves in these situations. Your margin for error is slim, and for a good hockey team, it was too much. It was too much of a deficit. But I think a lot of positives, more positives than negatives in that game. People don't like to have moral victories, so to speak. But look, there was a really, really good push, and they were the better team, which sometimes you just got to take the silver lining out of, and you get beat some days. And Montreal played a heck of a road game. They've been on the road for a while, and they're tough, man. They have a lot of big guys. Credit to their back end, and credit to them just winning a hockey game. I thought it was a real entertaining game on the outer skirts. I thought it was a great test for the Stars to have to kind of grind it out late and win some of those battles, which they weren't winning early in the game for the first, I felt like 2 periods. In the third, they started winning more of those battles, and they created some chances off of it. Unfortunately, the perimeters were just a no-go because Montreal was blocking anything and everything. That's a credit to them. Sometimes you get beat, and Montreal did that. But woo, what an effort. 2-6 on 5 goals late. They pulled Wedgwood with about 6.5 minutes to go. And they certainly had Montreal on their heels. And I bet they were nervous there in that final 2 minutes as the Stars were trying to get that equalizer. Special teams blunders, however, for the first time, it felt like the Stars were kind of on the wrong end of special teams, which they need to find a way to have that clutch gene on the man advantage. It'll do them so good. Let's talk about that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. It's Stars fans, we've all done it before. You buy a seat at a ballpark, at a new arena you've never been to before. Next thing you know, there's a railing in front. You got glass, you got a pole, and it really infuriates you. I wouldn't have bought these seats if I had known that. And that's the great thing about Game Time. They show you the view before you buy it. You can buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Also, you get all-in prices, show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON. That's Locked On for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Be sure to go check out Locked On YouTube, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Stars as well, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Big shout out to all you everydayers that know what we've been talking about all season long. The roller coaster of emotions as the Stars fall last night by a final score of 4-3. So special teams continues to be a bit of a mystery sometimes, right? They had that 0 for 16 stretch that lasted for most of December. They were starting to trend in the right direction. They get a power play goal in 2 consecutive games. Yesterday, they only have 1 chance. That was a chance for the Stars also to really take advantage of Montreal, as they have one of the worst PKs in the National Hockey League, and Montreal just didn't take any penalties. They took the one in the second period. The Stars unable to capitalize, and they just can't get that goal. I know I just mentioned it here earlier in the first segment, but there's something about special teams and getting that goal or getting that kill. They've been able to get that kill multiple times, almost every time throughout the year, and they had to do it in the game as well. They had to kill off a double minor on the Jamie Benn high sticking penalty, and they got through that. But the power play just cannot seem to strike when it desperately needs to. And that was something they did so much a season ago. And the personnel is not going to change very much. They've tried Lundqvist on the second unit, which I really liked his game yesterday too. I thought he was physical and noticeable. I really noticed number 5 yesterday. Thought he had a really tight game and got a little bit of power play time late. But Dallas just can't seem to get enough traffic in front recently. I think they've fallen in love with kind of the high tip pass to some degree, and they just need to look to shoot to score a bit more. Robertson as well on the flanks is trying to feed that shot pass, and Miro does that so much. I wish they need to start shooting to score a bit more and try to create rebounds and havoc that way. And then you can get those gritty, greasy goals on the top of the crease like they did at 6-on-5 when they started to finally get some shots in on Montebo. And then they were able to chop a few past them. So it was really the first time in a while too. I felt like the Stars were on the other end of special teams as Montreal goes 1 for 3. They get the huge power play goal on the Pavelski minor that pretty much kind of iced it as Caufield was all alone on the back door, and he was able to slam one home off of the Monahan pass. And once again, the two youngsters, Suzuki and Caufield, had big nights for Montreal, and special teams was really the deciding factor. I think if the Stars score on their opportunity, they tie the game at 2. I don't think Montreal even sniffs a lead up to that point, even though they responded really well to the first time the Stars score. Maybe not. It's if, ands, and buts at that point, but the way the Stars were rolling and just carried momentum, it seemed like shift after shift. And credit to Montreal, they scored and they halted it really, really quickly. The power play is a mystery to some degree, and I feel like we've talked about it consistently here the past few weeks. And to some degree, I'm all out of solutions. They've tried to work it down low beneath the end line a bit more, but they haven't been successful on completing passes from below the goal line in front. They've, of course, Pav's going to be a staple there. Just haven't quite connected. Ben makes some very, very curious plays sometimes, forcing the issue. And to some degree, it's looked good in aspects as well, where it's just lack of execution, where you can't be too upset. They're getting looks. They've had great chances. Sometimes they've just got stoned by really, really good goaltending at the time, or hitting shin pads and opponents getting in shooting lanes and blocking a ton of shots. I mean, 25 blocked shots for Montreal yesterday. They seem to be in every single shooting lane last night. Otherwise, Montembeault would have faced a lot more. Dallas outshot the Canadiens 33-18 in the game. I mean, they almost doubled their shot opportunities in blocked shots. So that kind of tells you how the night was going. A lot of zone time for the Stars as well. Just not really generating a ton at some points. And we've seen that here this year, where teams are kind of okay with giving them the perimeter, and Dallas just cannot get interior, which I thought wasn't really a huge issue yesterday, because they got some looks in the slot. They just got blocked because they had Montreal really spread out and scrambling at some points, chasing the puck. And Dallas had a lot of zone time. They controlled the pace, but just unable to execute. And sometimes you don't find the goals, even though they found 3, 2 of them late, but just could not find the equalizer. And then again, special teams wouldn't have to bail you out if you just don't give up these multi-goal deficits. And that's easier said than done. I agree. You would love not to play from behind. Sometimes you got to deal with the cards you're dealt. And Dallas has certainly done that a lot here in the past month. Can't do that tomorrow against a very, very good team in the Colorado Avalanche. Alrighty, I want to give my player of the game, the Podman player of the game, because why not? There were so many positives, and I thought a lot of guys were deserving, but only one can win the Podman player of the game, and I'll tell you that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in dollar bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use. There are so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and there are tons more. The great thing about football this time of year as well, we get games on Saturday, we get games on Sunday, Monday, Thursday night. There's so much football going around as the divisions are tightening up. The Cowboys have a chance to win the division. Go ahead and have a chance to win some money with FanDuel. $150 in bonus bets guaranteed with a $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Once again, be sure to subscribe to the Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Hit that notification bell as well here on Locked On Stars. Never miss an episode. It's been so much fun here over the past month. I feel like the Stars have been up and down, but recently have been playing really good. That's one thing I've taken out of it too before we get into my player of the game. The Stars are more consistent in their play, which I think is a huge, I'll say it one more time, huge thing to take out of the last month, at least December, and now as we go into 2024, starting to find their groove a bit. Stacking shifts, the personnels looked good. I think they're really hitting their stride. They just need to win some more games, pick up a few more points, of course, and it seems like a lot of teams are doing that. It's going to be a tight race in the Central Division till the very, very end. Winnipeg doesn't seem to want to lose. Colorado doesn't want to lose. So I think it's going to be a fun Central Division race this season. My man player of the game, the podcast player of the game, Wyatt Johnston. Big shout out to the kid for grinding it out. He finally gets that goal, a 16-game goalless drought, and he finally ended it right on cue. We talked about it yesterday. It was the first time I really highlighted it. I've been throwing it out there, but I really highlighted it, had a segment on it, and then boom, he finally gets the goal. So you're welcome, Wyatt. But I thought he played really good. 1 goal, 1 assist, had 15 minutes of ice time. As expected goals forward were 0.67. He ended up grading out the highest star on the night in terms or via hockey stat cards, 2.34 game score, the highest Dallas Stars. So big shout out to Wyatt Johnston because it had been a tough road. And as I touched on yesterday too, it wasn't an indictment on his play by any means. He was getting so many good looks. He was more unlucky than anything. He just needed to get one to go. And he did last night. Had his initial shot blocked, then great job to stay composed, pull it to the back end, and he goes upstairs on Montebo to make it a 4-2 hockey game at the time. Who would have thought the Stars were going to get one more and almost pull off the unthinkable against the Canadiens. So my player of the game for last night was Wyatt Johnston. Please let me know your player of the game, because I thought there was multiple guys that could have been awarded to it, but wanted to show some love to Wyatt Johnston, who I've been a bit tough on here as of late, but I really haven't. I just wanted him to score so badly. Sometimes you have to will them to score. And I feel like as a podcast, And all you Stars fans out there, you everydayers, we willed Wyatt Johnston back in the goal column, and hopefully that means more to come. All righty. It's all I have for today on Locked On Stars. Not a ton to be critical of and a lot to be positive about. Sometimes these are the hardest episodes. I'm like, they just lost. It sucked, but they played really well. And I'm always a glass half full kind of guy, right? So a very positive episode today. Hopefully you're having a wonderful, wonderful new year. Appreciate all the comments, the engaging conversation in those comments. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, never miss an episode. Follow me on the Twitter thing at JoeyTheJet19. Enjoy your Wednesday Stars. Got a big one tomorrow against a tough Central Division opponent. The Colorado Avalanche are in town. The Stars just had their 6-game win streak snapped. A chance to start a new one against those Avs. See you tomorrow. So long, Stars fans.